ADHD students are the most creative ones, and if you provide them with a task that they didn't anticipate, they will do it in the blink of an eye.
These students make more progress than others?
Every ADHD is different. There was a toothbrush, and the toothbrush lived in the castle, and the castle was bathroom.
So this is how you activate all that new vocabulary, right?
A lot of people with ADHD, they get a very negative message. Some teachers tell them they are lazy, that they will never learn a foreign language.
How to balance these two elements, structure versus novelty?
The challenge is to slow them down because this is unsustainable.
Hi. We're meeting again to speak to Agnieszka Ilnicka, one of our teachers, who is a psychologist to be and who loves working with very diverse students, among others, neurodivergent students, and among them, obviously, students with ADHD. And this is the topic of today's podcast. We will be speaking about students with ADHD who struggle, who face different challenges, and about how we as teachers can help them overcome these challenges. So Agnieszka, the first question is, what obstacles, what challenges do these students normally face?
It's a very difficult question because every ADHD is different. So there are some major things that all students have problems with, but in different degrees. So then it's really difficult to say. But for example, think of a student that has 9 million different interests in their life. So they do, public speaking on Monday. On Tuesday, they teach, programming to their students. On Wednesday, they go abroad to do some crazy, jumping from the plane or something, Of course, this is an exaggeration, but this is a good way of thinking about a neurodivergent student with ADHD. So this is someone that wants novelty all the time. And this is a great problem for many people because, well, not everything is new all the time. So then after some time of hyper-focusing, because this is something that people do. So for example, they can focus very intensely on something for hours on end. So this could be 16 hours sometimes. And then they forget to drink, eat, sleep, all the basic human functions because they're so into something. And then as fast as they started getting into something, they start getting not really interested in anything anymore. So then this is a huge problem for people because they start and during the first month they do even more than a regular student. They sometimes they do language exchanges. They find new apps that I haven't heard about to learn English. They find all of the most interesting resources that they don't understand but they would like to understand. And then the challenge is to slow them down. Because this is unsustainable. You can't do English for 6 hours a day for 3 years. No, doesn't work this way.
Mission impossible. So true. Do you also notice that they are aware of all these obstacles and they know their own strategies of how to cope, or rather not? Or is it our role, the teacher's role, to actually make them stop?
Well, it's our role to make them stop and to make them start at some point, but also we don't know. So the role of a student is be open to experiment. Our role is try to think of the most creative ways that we can make them do things.
All right. So the more creativity, the better. And does it sometimes mean that whatever new thing you come up with, they may be bored with it and then you just have to think on the fly and come up with something new?
Exactly. So, for example, I have students that really enjoy, a certain topic and they can talk about it for hours and hours and hours. And sometimes, hey, actually, the class is getting, to an end and they still want to say something, which is great. I really love when people have passion for life and for something that they're interested in. But sometimes this gets in the way because then, of course, we can learn about the different names of mushrooms. I have a student who was very into mushrooms. And 2 weeks later, we can learn, everything about politics in the United States. Great. But at some point, we will also have to learn grammar or we will have to learn some words that we can use when we go to the shop. And actually, all of this boring vocabulary from going to the shop or going to the, to the airport or something is a pain because they know that's useful. They know that they will say it, but there is no way of making some of the students learn all of those words because they are just so boring and repetitive. And in this context, this is the teacher's role to find a way in which this could be entertaining. So sometimes I bring some food to class and I say, hey, this is our, I don't know, this is the shop that we're in. And in this shop, you can buy this and this and this. How do you ask for it? And then they say, oh, I don't know. What about a discount? And then I'm like, oh, okay, so we can now haggle. So then they learn all the vocabulary of like negotiating prices. And actually ADHD students are the most creative ones. And if you like provide them with a task that they didn't anticipate, they will do it in a blink of an eye. So right now we are role playing and doing something, and next 2 minutes we are doing some grammar tasks or something. That works great. Just switching things up.
But then you have to have more things prepared for a class like this, right? Because you have to switch through activities at a much higher frequency than normally, right?
That depends, because I switch on the higher frequency anyway. Because I think that, I don't want to say that everyone has ADHD, because I think that this is very damaging. But on the other hand, I think that all of us have some problems with focusing right
these
now.
days, especially.
Because of social media, because of other things. And then a lot of students need this to just switch things quite often, depending on what the level of their need is.
Right.
Yeah, but we should. And then this is my responsibility to figure out what is the ratio. Like, do we do a lot of short activities, or do we do 4 activities that are longer, but we switch them up, or we break them in the middle, or maybe we should do just one activity during the entire class, because there are students like this that they want to do writing only, or they want to do vocabulary only. And again, this is trial and error, nothing else.
And do you notice that doing feedback with students with ADHD is beneficial because they are more aware of what works and what doesn't?
From my experience, the feedback is very negative. So in the context of, because I think that a lot of people with ADHD, they get a very negative message from the world. They get the message that they are lazy, that they won't amount to anything, that their level of English is atrocious, and that they will never learn a foreign language. Some teachers tell them that at schools and stuff. And then they come and I ask them, how do you feel about yourself? And they say, I feel horrible. And this is very difficult, because on the one hand, we have to show them, hey, you're making progress, you're doing something. But on the other hand, we have to be aware of the fact that they might think very low of themselves. So then when it comes to feedback, I would say that do one and see how this works. And then see what the reaction of the student is, because it can be very surprising sometimes in a very positive way or in a very negative way. So when it comes to feedback, I think that the best way is showing them that they can do something. So for example, we learned a word last week, and this week we can use it in a sentence. Wow, amazing. And they normally are very happy when they see like those very, very tiny little effort that they make throughout the class.
That makes a very good point. And so my understanding is that you give them lots of different things to also ponder on their own, and you notice that they are very open to trying out these new things, because if they are in hyper-focus regarding listening to their favorite podcast, but then you ask them to listen to something about a completely different topic, will they be open to do that, or rather not?
Sometimes you bargain. So you say, okay, we will talk for 20 minutes about the topic that you want, but then we have to do 40 minutes of other things, okay?
All right.
So same, you can listen to 2 hours of your favorite podcast this week, but then you will have to do 15 minutes of some other task. And then we will talk about it, yes, but you have to do something for me. So then this way they feel like I am open to changes, I am open to introducing something out of the box that I haven't planned before, but at the same time they do something that will be beneficial to them. And this is like, because I think that a lot of people think that this is boring and you have to read a lot of text that don't make any sense. But then you show them, okay, I am open. You gave me the suggestion, I will follow it. And sometimes students even start having their own suggestions.
And this is brilliant. All right. And do you notice that these students make more progress than others?
Yeah, if they take responsibility for their learning. Because if they put all the responsibility on me, that now I have to come up with all the ideas, I have to provide all the homework, I have to basically sit in their head and know what they need to learn, then no, they don't make much progress. But if they actually try to come up with ways to make their life easier, or like to give suggestions to me, like, no, that didn't work, maybe we can try something else, normally they make lots more progress.
Brilliant. Are they eager to learn about different learning strategies? As in, okay, perhaps I will try to do things differently than I always have, regarding vocabulary, or perhaps reading or speaking, perhaps finding somebody that they could chat with on a regular basis. If you push such ideas their way, will they be fine trying them out?
They will be fine trying them out as long as they remember about them, because this is a huge problem, because people just forget about things that are not within their eyesight. So for example, imagine that you have, I don't know, a mixer in your kitchen, but you have it in a box and the box is closed. So for people with ADHD, they don't remember that they even have it. So it's the same with homework. If you give homework and they have it somewhere and they don't look at it because they don't remember, there is no way that they will do the homework. So what works for my students is sending them emails. So I send them an email and there is a task to do for 15 minutes. Like, it takes 15 minutes tops. And then what happens is they have to do it right here, right now, the moment that they open the email, and they have to send me a message that they've done it. So then it actually works because it takes 15 minutes. They don't have to remember about anything, and they can do it the moment that they open the mailbox. So then they do it.
All right. And the element of surprise, receiving it at a moment that is maybe not their favorite, is not going to stop them from doing it, right?
If they're highly motivated and motivated enough, no. But they have to remember that they have to do it right here, right now, because the moment that they close the mailbox, that's the end.
Okay.
But then there's this element of having to tell me, and then they know that I will ask if they didn't do it. So this is this fear of like, but actually someone will check. And they actually want to do it then, because they know that there will be some consequence of some sort.
Brilliant. Okay, so consequences always work, it seems, right? Brilliant. All right. You mentioned that they really need this element of novelty all the time because they like changes. However, we also always like to say that learning a language is a marathon, so you can't expect to have a new thing all the time. So how to balance these two elements, structure versus novelty?
So structure is important, and every lesson has to have a certain structure. For me, it's 10 minutes small talk, 5 minutes checking what we've done last week, and then introducing new whatever there is, and then closing with trying to do some revision. So then this is the structure. But within the structure, we can do a lot of different exercises and tasks. So for example, with a student that likes anime, we can have like a very short piece of an anime with subtitles, and then we can talk about like what they said and what happened there. For a student that really likes, I don't know, what is the hyperfixation of my students currently? For example, photography. So for example, a student brought the photos of his, and we were talking about the photos. I took this photo in this place, and I did this and that. And how do I say this?
Excellent.
And we were building vocabulary this way. Sometimes we do some vocabulary task, but we try to use it in the weirdest of contexts. So for example, toothbrush. Can you think of the most creative way of using a toothbrush? And like, oh yeah, you can actually brush your hair this way. And then you're laughing.
Okay, maybe you can.
And sometimes students, they really enjoy creating some very stupid stories. I mean, silly stories, I wouldn't say stupid. So for example, I don't know, there was a toothbrush, and the toothbrush lived in the castle, and the castle was bathroom, and in the bathroom there was something.
So this is how you activate all that new vocabulary, right? Okay, so the creativity, as long as they can use creativity, they will be happy, right? Okay, so what you're saying is that you make sure all those elements, different skills are in there on a regular basis. You just try to smuggle them or present them in different ways.
And sometimes to pay attention to the things that they have already forgotten. So sometimes you feel like, we've done this like 2 months ago, and already they start forgetting. Yeah. So you just introduce one activity, but you don't say, no, that this is, the whole class about this because you didn't learn or anything. Just say, hey, and today we're going to do a revision from this, and this works this way. And do you remember that? And then, it works more smoothly.
And they won't get bored, right? They won't have a chance to get bored. Excellent. Do you recall a good activity that you remember You've already mentioned plenty, but perhaps something else comes to mind that has really worked well and it surprised even you.
The most surprising thing was when one student suggested that we compare the Wikipedia articles in many different languages. I did not expect this at all. And then he said, oh, actually, like in Polish version, there is not enough information. And then look at the English one. In the English one, we have so many. I was so shocked myself because I didn't think that a student would ever suggest anything like it.
Excellent.
Yeah. And from the homework activities, just there are some apps online that you can prepare some materials for the student personally. Mm-hmm. So, for example, you know that the dog of the student has a name of some sort, and then you create a story with the dog. Or you know that they really enjoy, traveling, so you create a story about someone that was traveling with the dog around the world, or the dog was traveling even, And then it makes it more interesting, so they want to read until the end of the story because they want to know what the dog finally did,
Brilliant. Okay, so find the thing that the student finds interesting, and then do things with that, and then it's going to work, right? Most of the time, I suppose. And then mix things up.
Definitely.
All right, so the last question would be, what advice would you give to someone, a teacher that would like to start teaching people with ADHD? Do they have to prepare in any way? Do they have to do some kind of a course? What would you advise them to do?
I would say that this is a different kind of class, so it takes more time to get ready, but it's very worth it because the student will appreciate it and they will make progress, and this is going to be very satisfying for the teacher. So I would say be patient because you have to learn, both of you, what works and what doesn't work. And to establish a good feedback, listen to the student. If one class they say that they like something, if you bring something about this topic next class, they will love you. And they will also open up more about their needs, and they will open up more about the struggles and other topics that they might find interesting because they know that you will listen. And then you can prepare accordingly. To make any course, I don't know. I think that the standard courses that you see of like how to prepare materials for the students and how not to use the textbook. No, because using the textbook is the killer. For ADHD person, if they see the textbook, they will run away. Because there's way too much structure. The topics are boring and not designed for them. And that just doesn't work.
Also for people without ADHD, right? But for those, especially, I suppose, right? Yeah. Very, very true. So could we agree that basically you do exactly the same as with any other student? You just need to be extremely consistent in whatever you start doing, and you need to be a bit more creative?
I would say a bit more creative, a bit more patient, and enjoy the process more. Because if the student sees that you are just sitting there like, activity, they will not want to do it. But if you have a lot of energy and you're excited about, look, the dog, then this all works and it makes the class more enjoyable for you and for them.
All right. So all in all, what we want to say is, whether you have ADHD or not, you can learn a language. You just need to have the right teacher. You also need the right approach. However, if you do get the right teacher, you get this relation developed properly, then there's nothing that can't be done, right?
Exactly.
Okay, great. So thank you, Agnieszka. Thank you for coming again, and I will see you soon.